Hello, today we're going to talk about using crosshatching to create value. And I'm using the Micron pens for this. I happen to have three sizes, an 01, an 03, and an 05. Whatever sizes you have will be fine, but just to show you, the 01 is the finest tip, the 05 is bigger, and obviously an 08 would be even a little bit bigger, and then there's sizes in between as well. So what I've done here, and what you will do in your sketchbook, is draw out a value scale. So I have 8 1 by 1 inch boxes. So I have 8 inches across, 1 inches down, and then divided into 8 boxes. And I've done this in pencil because I'm actually going to erase it in the end. Now I've drawn a little bit darker so that you can see it in the camera, but you will work lighter so that it's easier to erase. So I'm going to go ahead and start. For this demo, I'm just going to use the 3 and the 5 because I know many of you just have 2 pens. So I'm going to start with the smallest one, which would be the 3. You will start with whatever smallest number you have. I'm actually going to skip the first value and the second value. You'll see why. But I'm going to be building up all the other values at the same time. I'm not going to do each square individually. I'm going to go across so that I'm creating a gradation as I go. So when I start in box 3, I'm going to start with diagonal lines, but notice I'm actually going into box 2 a little bit, and I'm going into it kind of at an unequal amount. So some lines are crossing over more than others. And I'm just making lines that are, and actually I just did exactly what I said not to do. So you want to extend your lines all the way into the next box. Don't stop at whatever box you're on. And I'm going to do that all the way across, keeping more or less equal distance and the same diagonal. I'm going to go all the way across the rest of my value scale. Oh, did it again. Didn't see the last box. All right, all the way across. There we go. Okay, so now that I've gone all the way across, this box here is going to be done for now, and I'm going to go on to box 4. So same thing as before, I'm going to cross over into box 3 a little bit. So what that's going to do is it's going to, when we erase the pencil lines, it's going to give me a little bit more of a gradual transition into the next value. So I already did one group of lines, right, going this way. Here I'm going to just be adding another set of lines in between. So I'm going to add same direction, and I'm letting some of these lines cross over into that other box, and I'm going all the way across through all the boxes. So these values that are going to end up being the darker values on the value scale, they are being slowly built up at the same time I'm building up the lighter and middle values. I'm not isolating them. All the way across. And you'll see, even though we've just begun, that from here to here we have a value shift. So obviously this is different than blending with pencil or charcoal. This is creating value by covering the white paper. The more we cover of the white paper, the darker the value will appear to our eye. So now we've done box 3 and box 4. We're going to move on to box 5. This time we're going to add a new diagonal direction. So we already have this, and now we're going to add another direction going that way. And again, I'm going to let it cross over into the last box a little bit. I'm going to turn, it's easier for me to draw this way. I'm just going to turn my paper. And I'm going all the way across. To the end. Working up all of those darker values at the same time. Okay, so now I'm done with these 3 boxes here. I'm going to add to this box. So I already have lines going this way and this way and this way. I'm going to add another row going that same direction. Again, I'm going to let them go over into this finished box at a kind of uneven edge there, just to kind of give it a little bit of more of a gradation. And I'm just going to be adding a line in between all of the other lines. Okay, there we go. So you can see already that I have definite buildup in value as I'm going across. And now I just have the 2 darkest ones to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch now. So I'm going to put away my finer tip pen. I'm going to go to a slightly bigger pen. That's going to cover the paper faster, make it a little bit easier for me to go dark. So I have lines going this way, I have lines going this way. I'm going to go ahead and add double lines going vertically as well. All right, so here we go. Now, because I want to kind of fade into it here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do in the very end of this box, I'm going to do a couple broken vertical lines, kind of dashed lines, and then those will ease into my doing vertical lines. And I'm putting them fairly close together because I want this to get, I want it to really go up a value here. Be a visible value shift here. And again, I'm going to go all the way through to that last value. And you can see that this pen is still very fine tipped, but it does cover more than the last pen. So as we're getting darker, it's the shift isn't quite as noticeable. So if I want this one to go even darker, which I do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add even another row of lines in between any of the rows that still seem a little bit far apart, where it looks like it can kind of squeeze one in. So every other one or so, I'm going to go ahead and just add another row and darken that up a little bit. And again, I'm going to do it all the way through to the end. Okay, there we go. Now I have a much more obvious distinction between here and here. So now on my last row, or my last square, I have diagonals this way, I have diagonals this way, I have verticals, so I'm going to end with some horizontals. And again, I'm going to let them kind of have an uneven edge into that last box, and I'm going to do them again quite close together to try to really build up this value in this very last box. Going back, adding anywhere I see kind of a large, well, not really large, but anywhere I see more white than I really want to see, I'm just going through with another line. And there we go. So now I have value 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and 3 done. And now I need to go back to 2 and 1, and you'll see why we skipped it. I'm going to go back to my fine tip marker. Make sure you switch back to the fine tip marker. And here we're going to be using more broken lines to show value so that we really can get just the most subtle values. So I'm going to take these diagonal lines, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them become more dashed lines. And as we get into this first box, I'm going to make them very small dashes. So they're a little bit longer dashes in box 2. And then they become smaller dashes, dashes and dots really, as we get into box 3. And I don't want it to always be the same pattern. We want to kind of break it up. I don't want it to always just look like, you know, dot, dash, dot, dash, dot, dash. I'm kind of breaking up the size of the dashes so they're always a little bit different, and giving it a little bit more variety that way. Okay, so we have our lightest value, next value up, which I can maybe make this a little bit, connect a couple of these a little bit more. Next value up, value 3, all the way to dark. All right, and we've built it up slowly. So now if I take my eraser and erase these lines in between, we should have a nice gradual progression from light to dark. And that's how you're going to complete your value scale.